every week I post something new on my blog, and you know, I always say to my husband, tell me to stop beating myself up because I haven't done any writing lately, because every week I write like 1,000-word humor essay. So that's something, right? Like,
yeah, you're using that part of your brain, you know, if they hooked you up to a machine and said, okay,
yeah,
start writing, you know, those parts of the brain are going to light up. And
they're all firing away. Yep. I mean, it's good practice for everything. So, and I enjoy it. And I've got, a lot of followers and people who really engage with it. And it's great. And it's wonderful. I mean, they're just such nice people, and, people, I mean, and I try to keep it light. I've never really posted about politics or anything super serious, because I know people get enough of that everywhere else. So I try to always keep the topics really just, I'm a pretty like weird and absurd person. So I keep them kind of like that, right? Like my life is, like a Monty Python sketch. So that's how I write. But yeah. I should turn my virtual background on so I can, I don't know if I can
show everybody your virtual background.
Yeah.
That's great.
The trouble is you can't really see the whole thing, but this is like,
right.
This is part of the cover. This is part of the cover for Feasting Upon the Bones, which is the title of the short story collection. So yeah.
And so if you kind of lean to the side, we can see the little
sorry.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I love that. Just this.
Yeah, I know I'm kind of blocking the central part of the picture. Which way is my camera going? Blocking the central part of the picture, which is a little girl alone in a forest, and it was in a spooky forest. So.
Yeah. And your daughter, right? If I remember correctly from a past interview, who created the cover.
Not this cover. She actually, yeah, for this collection, she had created a mock-up, and the publisher said like they wanted to go in this direction with this cover, and I loved it. But then I said, hey, she's already created some art for the collection. How would you feel about using what she's already created, and then she could create 2 other images for each of the sections. So the original, you've seen that original cover of the little girl in the forest.
Yeah.
But that's the cover art for the title page of the first section. And then she created 2 other images for one for each of the other sections. We have this beautiful cemetery near us, like this drop dead gorgeous cemetery. And I know people don't often think of cemeteries.
I love cemeteries.
You know, right? It's this beautiful, it's on the top of this hill. It's like out in the middle of nowhere on the top of this barren hill. All of these old tombstones with one tree in the middle of it, this spreading tree. So we went up there one day and took some pictures, and so she rendered that into some cover art for the last section. And then for the middle section, which is what goes around, it's kind of like all the stories are kind of related to karma in a way. Okay. And the character Mr. Death, my brother is the best. Okay, my brother is a lawyer. He's like 2 years younger than me. He has a PhD in comparative labor law, and he's a partner in a major law firm. And I called him up one day and I said, I need to get an image for the second section of my new short story collection. I need a favor. And I didn't tell him the context first. I just called him. I said, I need a favor from you. And he says, what is it? I said, can you put on your best suit and a pair of aviator sunglasses and stand in the middle of the road in front of your house and get my nephew to take a picture of you looking at your watch? And he goes, yeah, right.
Nice.
I was like, yeah, right. I said, do you want to know why? And he's like, well, yeah, okay, why? I told him. He's like, okay, cool. So he did. The next day they went out and they did a photo shoot in the middle of the road with him wearing his best, like, I don't know who tailors for him, but his best suit and an pair of aviator sunglasses, looking at his watch so he could be the epitome of Mr. Death, which is like the image that I wanted for the second. And my daughter took all the images and rendered them and created them into a kind of portraiture that Potter's Grove used then for the 3 sections. So even though it's not on the cover, it's still, she gets the credit for the interior art.
Beyond writing, I hear that you used to be a DJ.
Oh my gosh, yes. In the 80s, yeah. In the 80s, I started off working at the university, like one of the university radio stations, and I had a classical music show actually.
Oh yeah, I'm
the best. Yeah, classical music, and you know, I remember running a contest once and my mom was the only person who called in, but I would sub in for a friend of mine. A friend of mine had more of an alternative music show and I'd sub in for her and I really enjoyed it. So I signed on with, well, his name was Dr. Music. It was like a music service.
Mhm.
And so I started DJing and I had a club gig for a while at a club in Waterloo called Shooters. And so I did that for a little while and I did some club work at a couple of other clubs, but I did that for a while. And I'll tell you, that is the most stressful job I've ever had in my
really?
life.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God, being a DJ, yeah, in a live DJ in a club. And the worst part was, I mean, in the one club I had turntables and in vinyl.
Did you do the vinyl?
But in the other club with the other music service, it was cassette tapes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how hard it is to try and what?
I was gonna say, for you youngins, a cassette tape.
Yeah, that's right. Because a cassette tape was something. Yeah, I know, right?
About
But I mean, you had this big and two reels, and in order to, so I was
physical tape.
terrible. So I'd be in the DJ booth with my double deck. And you have to because turntables, you can start, one record's going, you can start another record playing and you can kind of use the edge of your thumb to slow it down, or you can speed it up a little bit to match the beat and everything, right? So that they merge together and one song ends and the other song is great. Yeah, it's great and it's fun, but cassette tapes are a little bit different. So I used to have to sit at home and cue everything up at home, get to the club, and then you start one deck going and then you have to use your finger and get in the reel and try to slow the reel down a little bit to match the beat. Oh my God, it was so brutal. It was just and I couldn't hear anything because back then the headphones were shite, right? Now you got I have noise canceling headphones right now, and, so I'd have the booming coming in, the booth would be slamming. People would be coming up and asking for, of course, and everybody wanted to hear Paradise by the Dashboard Light. It's like, can you play Paradise by the Dashboard Light? No, I'm not going to play that. Go away. This is a dance club. But I do remember that, back then it was Milli Vanilli, Girl, You Know It's True, the 8-minute extended version. I would play it so I could go to the bathroom, because it was 8 minutes long. And if I put that song on, it was enough time to get to the bathroom, get back, get the next cassette tape in and cue the next cassette tape up. Oh my God. But I mean, it was a great life, but it was very stressful. And, and I blogged about this before, but I quit one night because the owner was a bit of a douche. And one night he said to me, we're going to do a wet t-shirt night. And I'm like, we're doing what? And he said, yeah, wet t-shirt night. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I was under contract, right?
Right.
So they started this wet t-shirt night, and then he's like, play some music, get the crowd going. And I don't even know. So I'm playing dance music, and all of a sudden one of the girls whips her top off.
Oh.
Right. And I'm like, oh, come on. And he's like, no, keep playing music, keep playing music. And then another girl does. And then there's another girl, and the crowd's all hyped up, and this poor third girl is taking her, and she's crying, and I'm like, can't do it. I shut and bear in mind, I'm like in a nightclub full of people. I shut the music off.
Good for you.
And he came over and he's like, what the hell are you doing? I said, I'm not doing this. This is, the police could come in any minute. We will get arrested. Like, you can't do this. Look, she's crying. And he's like, put that music back on right now. I'm like, I'm not. If you want to play music, you get in the booth, you play it your damn self. And I walked out. And that was the end of my illustrious career with Dr. Music, because and he called me up the next day and he's like, I told him what happened. I said, look, we could have been charged. The cops could have come in, seen these girls like half naked and charged us. And he's like, okay, fair enough. But I was like, that was it. I didn't want to work at that club anymore. So I did a couple of other smaller club gigs after that, but then I was done with it. And then of course, I went to grad school and kind of got married and kind of got over DJing. But yeah, it was the most bizarre thing to see these poor girls and feeling the peer pressure, right?
That's a third person. And what I'm hearing is that, it was, you justified it by saying, the police could come in, we get in trouble, blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, that decision came from a place of compassion, seeing this person.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was the initial reaction. I said that to him only because I knew that was the only way to reason with him, was to tell him, you know, this is the reason why we should do this, because I knew if I just said it's wrong, he'd be like, it's not
Yeah.
wrong. Look, they're
Yeah.
having fun. So I tried to give him a rationale to say, okay, let's close it down, but he wouldn't. And I just said, okay, that's it. You want to keep this up? You play it yourself. I'm done. And I walked out.
That's
He
great.
was furious. Oh, he was furious. Oh
That
my
was
gosh,
back
he
in
was
but that's back in the 80s. So
back in the 80s. Yeah, back in the 80s. But I mean, I'd do it again. I mean, you know, lost the job, but I don't care. I mean, I'm not going to
you
see
did
these
something
girls
right.
being
You
exploited. Yeah,
stood up for somebody that nobody else was seeing, obviously, because
yeah.
I mean they were
Well,
all
and the crowd, I mean, of course, the crowd, I mean, they were all, you know, drunk and it was late
yeah,
and
woo, boobs.
exactly. Yeah. And they were like, take it off, take it off. And this
Yeah,
poor one girl was
not
just
fake
like, you
this
know,
person's
yeah,
tears. Yep.
yeah, I
Yeah,
couldn't do it. So
good.
I was unhappy to begin with, but at that point I just said like, no, I'm not doing this. Because when it was just, you know, they were wearing t-shirts, they were dancing, that was fine. But when they started to take yeah, I just said, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah. But anyway, but I did like DJing up until that point, and you know, it was a lot of fun. I DJ in a club that had this super bouncy floor, and I had turntables that were and they were really old turntables, and the stabilizers were pretty crappy. So every time the crowd would get all hyped up, the floor would start to bounce, and the records would start to skip. So I'd be like in the microphone, stop bouncing. You're making the records skip.
Did they?
Tell my bunch of no,
No.
no. Yeah, I know. I'm like, hey, stop bouncing. Yeah, in terms of my favorite artists and people that I've actually met,
Oh yeah.
Gary Newman, like, was it 2 years ago, put out a new album for after quite a while, and toured Canada among, you know, he was doing a world tour and came to Toronto, and I got a VIP ticket to actually meet him, like do a meet and greet with him. And he's like the nicest man. You know, Gary Newman, Cars, right?
Yeah.
Like that,
Oh,
you know, electro punk. Yeah. And my God, he's the nicest man. We talked for, and in fact, they said, when you get to Gary, just bear in mind, he will keep talking, but there are a lot of people waiting. So just like,
oh,
don't let him, because he's so friendly and he's so kind. Like he'll just talk to you and talk to you. And then they, you know, they put on the show, and it was, he's incredible.
yeah.
Like, my gosh, but to meet him was so wonderful. He was such a great and kind person. And then to see him performing, and now he's just put another album out. So, I mean, I feel very blessed to have met him.
That's great. So when was this?
Yeah.
You met him?
This was 2018.
Oh yeah. So
What is it now? 2021. It was like fall. It was like around my birthday in like late 2018. And then in 2019, fall of 2019, we met, my husband and I saw, there's a Canadian band we love called Big Wreck, and we went to see them as well and met them. But yeah, I love doing the meet and greets, right? But I mean, Gary Newman, you know, I've loved him since I was a teenager, and Cars first came out, and, you know, Friends Are Electric and all that stuff. And then to meet him in person and talk to him. And then we were talking, because I brought him, he has 3 daughters, and they're all, I think they range in age from about like, you know, 11 to 16 or something. So I took him a copy of my first book, and he said to me, he said, I can't believe this. He said, I've always wanted to be a writer. I think it's so
Oh my
cool
gosh.
that people can write books. And I said, what are you talking about? I said, you are a writer. You're an incredible writer. Your
Exactly.
song lyrics are like the best poetry I've ever read. And he was like, but you wrote a book. I'm like, dude, you wrote like how many albums? Like, his lyrics are incredible. He's so talented. And he was like complimenting me for writing a book. He's so
Oh
nice.
my
Like,
gosh. That is
yeah, such
like
a nice man.
cloud 9 right there.
It was fantastic. And then to see the concert, and he's just such an incredible performer. He's older than I am. Like I said, I'm 56, and he's like, I don't know how much older than I am he is, but he came out and he was like 2 hours on stage. He just powerhouse. Like, wow, he's amazing.
Well, the last concert I saw before COVID was Les
Yeah.
Claypool and Sean Lennon. The Claypool Lennon.
Yeah.
Oh, my brain. The Claypool Lennon dilemma. Oh gosh.
I know what you mean though. Yeah.
Yeah. So John Lennon's son, and Les Claypool, the bassist,
Yeah.
and face of Primus.
Yeah.
And so that was in Eugene, Oregon. Oh my God, that experience. And the opening band was amazing too.
Yeah.
I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but I'm definitely gonna write it in on the subtitle
Yeah.
because that band was freaking amazing too. And we stood in, I made my son and husband, I was like, we've got to get in line. So we ended up standing in line for like an hour and a half, and it was completely unnecessary in Eugene, Oregon. Like we had our tickets, it was an open floor. We didn't
Yeah,
want to
but
be
you
in the
do what you got to do to get the
right
prime spot, right? You got
because
to get the prime spot. Yeah.
I was convinced that I saw, you know, the limousines and stuff pulling, or
Yeah.
well, it wasn't actual limousines, but the bus, the tour bus and stuff pulling up, and I was like, if we stand here, we're gonna
You're
get
going
to
to see them.
see
You're
them.
going to see them.
We
Yeah.
never did. They were like, we could have been
You
sitting
know,
in the car all this time. And
like I always say, but what if? But what if?
yes, what if?
Yeah. I
And
know.
it was a super cool day because a storm was coming in and the lightning was flashing through the sky, and we're
Yeah.
standing out there, and it hadn't started raining, but you could feel the electricity in the air. And
Yeah.
personally, like, I led a very sheltered life, so I actually didn't go to my first concerts until the last decade, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, so
Wow. Yeah. And my
so
first concert, I'm trying to think who my first concert was. I mean, I remember being about 17. I saw Susie and the Banshees twice. Oh, so good. Incredible.
oh my God.
Depeche Mode, The Cure.
Oh my,
Seen a bunch of
speaking
those.
my language.
Oh yeah, all those bands. So good, so good. I think the only thing left on my bucket list right now is I'd really like to, aside from the Foo Fighters, so I've never had a chance to see in concert. Once we go back to touring, I'm determined to see them. But the other thing on my bucket list is Maynard James Keenan.
Oh yeah, I got to see,
Yeah.
yeah, I did see him. And pardon me, but my brain, it's like I'm mixing up years, so I'm not sure if it were Les Claypool and Sean Lennon, or if it were uh Perfect Circle. That was my last
Yeah.
concert that I saw before.
But yes, I really want to see him doing like his Pussifer stuff.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that stuff. Like I
Yeah.
would love to see him in concert doing that because like I had like part of my bucket list with Gary Newman, and then like I said, I've seen some good Canadian bands like the Tragically Hip we saw before Gord Downey passed away. And they're very Canadian. You've probably never heard of the Tragically Hip, but they're like a Canadian
I would
icon,
love to.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's
Yeah.
an incredible band, and their lead singer died fairly, really tragically of a brain tumor about, was it 4 years ago now?
Mhm.
Yeah. So, but we did see them in concert before he passed away. Fairly young too. But yeah. So I've met most of my bucket list challenges. It's just I really do want to see Maynard James Keenan and the Foo Fighters, and then I'm good. We saw Heart. I'd
Oh.
always wanted to see Heart because like I remember when I was in the 70s, seeing their those videos of their live concert footage, from like Magic Man and Barracuda, and always wanting to see Heart in concert. And they came like locally, oh gosh, it was maybe 10 years ago, and we went to see them, and it was incredible. They opened up, and we had like second row seats, and I stood there, and I was like, a tear streaming down my face. I was so overcome by seeing them in concert, and they were just as good as they have always been. Like, boy, Ann Wilson's voice is just incredible,
Oh,
and Nancy on guitar, and the whole thing was just like an incredibly phenomenal experience. So,
oh wow.
yeah.
So when I saw Perfect Circle, unfortunately, Maynard had a cold.
Oh,
So, yeah. So but
yeah.
it was a surreal experience because he
Well,
wasn't,
it would be with him. He's a very surreal person, I think.
and I don't, and what's really cool is when they do tour, a lot of times they'll reproduce what they've done in videos and stuff. And so
Yeah.
he was in that suit, but it's a woman's suit.
Yeah.
And he was in the shadows, and so you could see his weird little hairs
Yeah.
sticking out. And he had these weights, the shake weights.
Yeah.
I've never used them, but they're really funny.
Yeah.
And so like he had just enough energy to I mean, it was an incredible concert.
Oh,
I mean, like he put
yeah.
his all. He was like, I'm not feeling well, but
Yeah.
like his voice is amazing, the music was amazing. And he introduced us to these shake weights. But he's all in shadow, right? So he's
Yeah.
the silhouette against this background, and he's shaking these weights. And so
He's
that's what I
incredible. Yeah, I just like, I love everything
oh,
that he does. He's really an incredible
he's a
performer.
winemaker too.
Yeah, I know. I've never been able to get any of his wine, but I'd like to try it one day.
You have a website?
I do. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. It's I mean, if you Google my dang blog, you'll find me there.
My Dang Blog, DANG.
Yeah. DANG, my dang blog. Yeah, that's me.
I love
Yeah.
Anne with her fantastic novel, The Seventh Devil, coming out,
Yeah.
and short story anthology, Feasting Upon the Bones. I'm so excited about these two books.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I'm Jude Matulich-Hall, and my debut novel, The Eversteam Chronicles Small Demons, is coming out October of this year.
Exciting, exciting. Can't wait.
And shortly after, I'll have a short story anthology coming out based in the Eversteam universe.
Perfect.
That's what we have going on right now.
Awesome. It was so good to talk to you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much.